On the September 12th, the movie Atlas Shrugged Part 3, or Who is John Galt, is coming out. A lot of Tea Party people are kind of, when they've gone to some of their rallies, they were carrying signs saying Atlas is shrugging or Who is John Galt, because that kind of goes with the theme of the book. And the theme of the movie that they're actually pushing now is Atlas Shrugged, now nonfiction. Because we're living those times essentially where the government has gone completely haywire. It's taking over control of our lives. We're supposed to be serving the state, and the individual is essentially worthless. And part 3 is, I did see a pre-release version of it about a month and a half ago in Manchester. It's good. I also posted recently, there's a half-hour video that had been private up until today. They actually released it to the general public, that goes through and talks about the trilogy, the philosophy behind it. Not to give anything away because it's already out there. Ron Paul does make a cameo appearance in it. Matt Kitty from Freedom Works is in it. Sean Hannity plays a newscaster. I don't know how they type-picked him like that. And I believe Grover Norquist is in this movie again as well. I don't know if he's playing a drunk or a businessman, but he's been in multiple cameos roles in that. It is an independent production. It is something that is only being released to a number of theaters. If you're familiar with the history of it, something that Hollywood really has not embraced, and the reviewers pan it horribly, and it gets typically in the single digits of approval from your mainstream viewers. Whereas the people who actually go out of their way to view it typically put it up in the 80s or the 90s, if not better. So it's one of those things that if you are attempting to see it, get out and see it early, because it may not be in the theaters for that long. It is opening currently in Danvers that I'm aware of, and also the AMC Lowe's Theater here in Boston. Those are the only 2 theaters I'm familiar with at this point. So I would encourage you to see that. I'm, as you can probably tell, a little bit of a fan of it. And I've enjoyed it, and I think people will too. That half-hour video talks about the story, and it talks about how Atlas Shrugged is really where we're at these days. It's really kind of scary that she wrote that novel 50 years ago, hoping that it would not come true. Well, here we are. Going on the topic of movies, there's another movie coming out. It is a one-day showing. The movie's called, whoops, sorry, that was not too good. Unfair. Yeah, don't show the video part of that. Unfair, the movie. It's talking about the IRS. Gentleman, I believe he's a radio broadcaster from the Heartland, I believe the Iowa area. He actually talks about the IRS. He talks about how they went after the Tea Party. He talks about how they go after a large number of people. It's not just politically minded citizens, it's citizens in general. Has some very compelling and infuriating footage where they went after a VFW in Texas. $50,000 fine because they put a tip jar out to try and get a little bit of $1 or $2 for the meals that they were passing out to people. And they talk about how this impacted their ability, a $50,000 fine, and how much it impacted their ability to help serve the community. You know, this is people's Christmases going away. This is the ability to help people with food and shelter and clothing. So it was, and they also have a portion of it talking about if you do a foreign-born adoption, there's certain tax credits that go along with that. There's also the assumption that you are guilty of tax fraud. It's a 100% audit rate. You adopt a foreign-born child, you'll get the exam from the IRS. And of course it is heavily on the Tea Party as well, because they were meaning to shut us up. And for 27 months they did not approve any Tea Party groups, so it gets into that as well. It is again, one of those independent productions. I saw a pre-release version of it, CPAC. It is one day, October 14th. They will have it in 15 theaters in Massachusetts. It's on a calendar on our website. See it if you can't. See it if you're interested. I'm assuming that that's to get the excitement, the buzz going, so that they would release it in a larger theatrical release. Let's see. So then on September 17th, excuse me, there are two meetings, sorry. One is called, there's a rally in Boston called The Future of Education is in Your Hand. Dean Cavaretta, Dr. Peg Luxick, and there's a third speaker, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, will be speaking at the Boston, in front of the Boston State House. It's a rally against Common Core. Common Core, as we're all aware, and even it'll probably maybe even reach into the homeschooling movement. Maybe you guys can talk about that a little bit. But Common Core is going to trash public education in this state. This is a rally in front of the State House to make the point that this is something that has to go. There's an organization called Common Core Forum, which is kind of leading the fight in this state. They are the people that if you ever want to have Dr. Sandra Stotsky and maybe Jamie Gass from the Pioneer Institute come, they're the people who help kind of schedule those people. And speaking of, so that is from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the State House. Then at 7 p.m. in Shrewsbury, Dr. Peg Luxick will be speaking at I think it's St. Elizabeth Church in Shrewsbury. And very quickly, there's also a Common Core informational forum in Newburyport on September 23rd. Again, having the aforementioned Dr. Sandra Stotsky and Jamie Gass speaking there. Also, the Worcester Tea Party will be having a conservative comedian, Eric Golub, who's actually spoken at a few of our Greater Boston Tea Party events. He'll be out there in Worcester on September 18th. And I think that about covers it, and we should be right on time. I don't think there's too many other announcements. This is political season, the politically charged season. The primaries, as far as I'm concerned, are thankfully going to be over with tomorrow, and we'll have whatever potential disagreements, or we'll have things settled tomorrow one way or the other. But it's up to us to be politically active. We do need to change the climate in Massachusetts because it is horrible. This is one of the worst states. A place where something like the Justina Pelletier situation could happen with somewhat impunity, I think, is horrible. So, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ed. I'm sorry.
Tip bar bartender.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, as far as a little bit of other housekeeping matters. Thank you, Mike. We come here. We have these meetings here. We always ask that you take very good care of our bartendress, our waitress. And we also need to pay for the room, so we just have a tip jar at some point, someplace.
The IRS won't come after us?
The IRS, we're not taking any address, names, phone numbers. We're not.
Everything I make.
Yeah, yes. It is not.
$5 suggested donation.
It's $5 suggested donation because it covers the cost of the room. We do need to pay for it each month. It's not like our Holbrook meeting where we actually get the facility for free. So. Anyway, that being said, I'll turn it over to Ed Wagner, who will introduce our panelists and kick off the evening.